Devotional. This is episode number 488 of the D.I.M.E Devotional Daily Inspiration, Motivation, and Exhortation. I'm dropping dimes at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. I got a good one for you. I feel good about this one. It's called A Means to an End. So there's this dream you've got. You've been dreaming, and I'm speaking to a particular and a specific group of people. There's this dream. What's going on, Miss Nelson? Thank you for joining me. I'm speaking to a very specific group of people. It's not for everybody, but a group of people that I'm called to. And this dream you have is bigger than you. This dream that you have it wakes you up at night. It gives you hope. It gives you passion. It allows you to look through some negative situations. And this dream is so big, and you can see it, you can feel it, and you can even taste it. But the problem is you don't know how to get to it. It's way out there. It's real. It's 100% real, but 100% intangible at the same time. And so there's this dream that you have, and there could be various levels of it. Some people do have a plan, but that plan is taking longer than you expected. Or there's this thing that's in front of you. There's this thing, this frustration, this confusion, that's right in front of you, and it seems like it's like an antithetical. It seems like it's an adversary to the very thing you've been called to do, yet you've got to deal with this thing. Do what you must do. This is my advice. Do what you must do so that you can do what you will do. Do what you must do so that you can do what you will do, because you're looking at something that doesn't make sense. How does that have anything to do with the gift and the call? How does that have to do with the dream? Do what you must do so that you can do what you will. I want you to do the hard thing right now so that you can do the hard thing later. Who am I speaking to? I'm speaking to a very specific group of people. I call them pictures, pioneers, innovators, creators, trailblazers, underdogs, revolutionaries, extraordinaries, and strategists. These are the people who I'm speaking to. Hi, Mama K. What's going on? When you have a dream and a vision and the purpose, and it's greater than you, it's bigger than you, it's bigger even than your lifetime. It places a demand on your life in every aspect of who you are. I'm talking to you. There's this thing that you're encountering. There's this thing that's in front of you. And let me be specific. Maybe this thing is called your day-to-day bills. You have this dream. You have this hope, this plan. You got this vision. And right now you got some bills due. What I'm saying is it's an end to a means. Go ahead and do what you have to do. If you got to take on a side job, go ahead. If you got to take on a project that maybe is outside of your nomenclature, go ahead and do it, because the means justify the end. It's a means to an end. Do what you must do. Do what you must do so that at some point in the future you can do what you must do. Let me say that again. Do what you must do in the moment so that you can do what you must do for eternity. Do the thing. It might seem like it's contrary to. You got to pay this bill. You got to deal with this relationship. You got to deal with this circumstance. I'm saying there is a means to an end. It may not seem like it's working for you. It may seem like it's actually working against you. What I'm saying is deal with what you're dealing with so that you can get to what you really want to do. Do what you don't want to do so that you can get to what you really want to do. I can remember as a boy, even as a young man, I would get myself into trouble. And I got myself into trouble when others around me didn't get in the same trouble. Now, how does that work out? How did I get in trouble for it? And we all did it together, but you didn't get in trouble. It was because, and I would think this to myself, why am I being treated differently? And I realize now what I didn't know then is that my calling is different. And because you stumbled across this particular video at this particular moment, I believe that your calling is a lot like mine. It's very different from other people. It doesn't look like what other people are doing or saying. You're built different. You're built different. You sound different. You speak different. You got different challenges. You can't do what other people can do. You can't go where other people can go. You want to. You wish you could, but you can't. You can't do what they do. It convicts your spirit in such a way. It could be because the calling you have on your life is different than those who who are around you. What am I saying? The demand that is on you, that gift, that great call, that great demand, that thing that's on you, that demand that is on you will require some unflattering moments, some hurtful interactions, and some periodic needs to self-reflect. I really enjoy the story, to drive this point home. I really enjoy the story of Joseph. This is a great man who dealt with something very similar. Let me make sure I'm clear. He had these dreams, right? He had these dreams. His dreaming is the very thing that led to all the problems that he had. I could imagine someone standing on the outside of Joseph saying, shh, you need to shut up. You're doing a little bit too much talking. Because as he was talking, he was digging his own pit. He was digging his own pit. What's amazing about this story is that dreaming got him into the problem, but dreaming also got him into his purpose. Hear what I'm saying? You think it's an issue. You think it's taking you off your path, but it's a means to an end. If he would have taken the safe route, and I'm talking about Joseph, of not dreaming for fear of who wouldn't approve, then the catalyst for the anger that led to the pit, that led to the peculiar institution known as slavery, that led to Potiphar's house, that led to the prison, that led to the palace, and eventually led him right back to his people. The very people who kicked him out may not have occurred. What I'm saying is that the dream got him into trouble and the dream got him out of trouble. It's a means to an end. The thing that you're facing, you think it's a problem. You think it's going counterculture to what God has placed in you. But what I'm saying is that it's all in line. It all works together for the good. The dream is worth the pain, the humiliation, and the anxiety, because the dream is worth the pain, the humiliation, and the anxiety, because ultimately it protected the people. All else in between was a means to an end. Let me say that again, because I think that's poetic. The dream was worth the pain and the humiliation and the anxiety, because ultimately the dream protected the people. All else between the problem and the protection that the dream provided was a means to an end. It was justified in the end. It all made sense. It all was okay. The pit, the peculiar institution, Potiphar's house, prison, the palace. It all made sense. It all made sense. It all made sense because it was what he needed in the end. What we go through is just that. A process. You can't judge the outcomes while locked in the steps of the process. My wife and I were talking today. See, I didn't have one, and I can claim it. I wanted one. Let me tell you this. I wanted one. There was a thing called a Jerry curl back in the day, and I don't know if you remember the Jerry curl, but this was an African American phenomenon in the 70s and 80s. I mean, Jerry curl. I'm talking about. It made your hair look like I don't know, a greasy pit of fire. I don't know what it was, right? Jerry curl. And so the Jerry curl had got to the point, people despise them now. They're so disrespected now. But it got to a point, the Jerry curl, it cost you Jerry curls were $150. I mean, Jerry curls were more expensive. This was before weaves, of course, but Jerry curls were super expensive at a point. And it took all day. It took all day at the beauty shop, men and women, to get the Jerry curl. If you would have judged the Jerry curl by the various steps, if you would have judged the outcome by steps 1, 2, 3, or 4, you wouldn't have seen, because you had to put rollers in your hair and you had to get under a dryer. So you had a chemical process, a rolling process, a heating process, and then there was always the process of time. If you would have judged the process of getting the Jerry curl by the steps in the process, you would not have understood the outcome. But the outcome, despite the fact that we don't like them now, was obviously what people wanted, because it was the rave. The Jerry curl was the rave. I didn't have one, thank God, but I sure did want one. I wanted one. Ooh, I wanted one. I wanted to be like Coming to America. I wanted to leave a stain on your couch. I wanted one of those. Didn't get my chance, but I sure did want one. But here's some things to hold on. We're talking about a means to an end. And I don't want you to judge the outcome by the process, by the steps in the dream, because step 1 doesn't look like step 10. See, step 10 is when you come to the completion. Step 10 is when you take the cake out the oven. Step 1 says get a bowl. That doesn't look like you having a cake to eat. Step 2 says get some flour. Step 3 says get an egg. Step 4 says get some sugar. Step 5 says get some vanilla. All of those steps in and of themselves does not look like the cake that comes out the oven. It does not. Mama K said, I thought of Coming to America, right? Coming to America. Hercules. No, that's the wrong movie. Coming to America. But yes, but the steps in the cake, the steps in the process, the steps in the life, the steps in you coming to the dream, the individual steps, if you take them out of context, does not look like the thing that you're creating. But we can't stop there. It's a means to an end. Here's three things I want you to hold on. Here's what I want you to hold on to. Those pictures. I talk a lot about pictures of pioneers, innovators, creators, trailblazers, underdogs, revolutionaries, extraordinaries, and strategists. I'm speaking to the people who have big dreams that are bigger than your entire life, and dreams that will outlast your lifetime. I'm talking to you. What I'm saying is this: 3 things that you can hold on to. A means to an end. What you see right now, point number 1, what you see right now does not compare to the glory that's unfolding. Give you 3 things to hold on to. What you see right now as you go through the process, steps 1 through 10 to get to the cake, step 1 through 10 to get to the dream, neither step looks like the final process. Neither step, even to include step 9. Step 9 is stick it in the oven. It still does not look like the final process, but it's the heat. It's the time and the heat. We have to give our lives. We have to give the dreams that God has placed in us the opportunity. We have to give it. We have to give it the opportunity to become what it's supposed to be. Number 1. I want to say it again because I want to be clear. What you see right now does not compare to the glory that's unfolding. Point number 1. Point number 2. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening. The price of admission is the blood. Hey, how you doing, Curtis? Point number 2. The price of admission is the blood, the sweat, and the tears. These are the costs that make what is hoped for and prayed for so special. It's a means to an end. I know what you're doing right now seems counterintuitive. It seems like it's the opposite of what you need to do to get to the end of it. But I'm telling you, as you create the cake, that's the dream. As you create the cake, the eggs independently, the flour independently, the sugar independently, the vanilla extract independently, none of those things independently look like a cake or taste like a cake. But until you go through the process, until you start to mix the things up, until you allow the process itself to come into fruition, it is hard to judge the steps in the process by the end of the process. 3 things I want you to know. Number 1, I said this: what you see right now does not compare to the glory that's unfolding. Number 2, the price of admission is the blood, the sweat, and the tears. These are the costs. These are the costs that make what is hoped for and prayed for so special. Point number 3, and I'm out of your hair. Thank you so much for listening. Sow the seeds, and then you will reap the harvest. I know it sounds simple, but it's just that easy. Sow the seeds, and eventually, at some point, you will reap the harvest. It's a means to an end. It doesn't look like it's working out. It doesn't look like it's the thing that I signed up for. I don't see myself going in the direction that I signed up for, that I agreed to. But let me understand. Let me make sure I'm very clear. Purpose existed before your person. Jeremiah 1:5. It says, before your mother's womb, I foreknew you. So that means that in the inception of man, when God created man and blew life into him, that's the Ruach of God, the Ruach of God, the wind of God, the life of God, the spirit of God, and the breath of God. As God blew the breath of life into this clay form called Adam, later called man, later called Adam, he also blew you into Adam at that moment. At that moment, you entered Adam with every other human being, which means your purpose entered Adam at that point. What am I saying? I'm saying your purpose precedes your person, which means that the pain, the trouble, the confusion, the hurt, the trauma, all of those things are connected to the blood. They're connected to the womb, but your purpose precedes that, which means that your purpose not only is first, but your purpose has precedence. Your purpose has precedence over your life, so that means that all that you've gone through, all of these layers of confusion and chaos are designed to point you toward the purpose. Here's my point. My point is this: we are not powerful enough to offset the purposes of God. Period. You're not powerful enough to stop the purposes of God. You don't have that power. You're not that strong. His purpose existed before you had a person, and they will exist after your person leaves this earth. Why? Because God's word always returns to him as it was sent. It never returns to him void. What am I saying? He has a plan for us. All things work together. All we got to do is go through step number 1. It may be hard. It may be difficult. Step number 2, it may be ugly. It may be painful. Step number 3, keep moving, keep pressing. There is a means to an end. You can't judge what we're looking at. You can't judge your circumstances based on the totality simply because we only have points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 until you stick that cake in the oven. And the heat and the pan. Until you stick it in the oven, you won't have a cake. It takes all of those steps. Point number 1, it didn't look like a cake. Step number 2, it didn't look like a cake. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of those steps, it looked like a cake. It did not look like a cake until the very end. So you can't, it's a means to an end. You can't judge your life. You can't judge the dream by steps 1, 2, and 3. I need you to keep on pushing. Whatever you must do, do it. As long as it's not illegal, unethical, or immoral. Do what you must do. I understand you might need to take a part-time job to maintain the bills in the house. But don't forget that the dream and the purpose are yet. And it's not your responsibility. I want to release that from you. I want to take the pressure off of you. The purpose and the dream are not your responsibility because they pre-existed who you are. They pre-exist your consciousness. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to get out of the way and let God do what he must do. And wherever he takes you through, even if he takes you through a desert experience for 40 years, even though that trip should have been 7 days, even though he sends you into the pit, your family sends you into the pit, and from that pit you go into the peculiar institution known as slavery. You go from the peculiar institution known as slavery, and now you are standing in front of Potiphar. You go from Potiphar to prison, and from prison to the palace, and from the palace now you are standing after years in front of the people, the very people that started the process to begin with. What I'm saying to you is this: it's a means to an end. All that you go through, all that you've seen, all that you experience, you will still end up where God wants you to be, because we're not powerful enough to offset the King of Kings and the Lord of Gods. Lord of Lords, I do not have the strength in me to undermine the omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent one. I'm not that powerful. He's sovereign. He doesn't need my permission. It's always going to happen. Love you so much. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Brian Keith. Thank you. Thank you for listening.